Am Shankaracharya Gurupada Saroruham Yasya Prasadan Modhopi Sarvajyoham Sadabhavam Kamakshi Karunarupam Kamakoti Jagadguru Janmurtin Kalaye Chitte Shankaracharya Bhaktivam Veda Vedanta Samrajya Dharma Kamartha Moksharam Vidyaranyam Pramah Punyam Jo Vidyaranyam Achinatu Sadashiva Sri Brahmendra Dhrita Swapada Paduka Dhiran Parashvendraryan Dhyayan Sarvam Bhavi Apara Karuna Sindhu Jnanam Shankarubinam Shri Chandrasekhara Gurum Pranami Vidambaham Deve Dehe Chateshe Chatyarupya Smurpradam Udha Pamara Seviyantam Shri Jayendram Namamyam Namami Shankaran Vakya Vijayendra Saraswati Shri Guru Shishtamargar Netanam Sarvadipradam Sadashiva Swaram Dham Shankaracharya Bhaktivam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Brahma. In this year of 2500 years having elapsed after the Siddhi of Srimad Shankara Bhagavatpāda and starting on the occasion of the 70th Shankaracharya of the Sri Kanchi Kamkoti Muram Naya Sarvakya Bhaitam Jagadguru Shri Shankara Vijayam Saraswati Shankaracharya Swami completing his Rameshwara Tirtha Yatra by performing himself the Abhisheka to Ramanatha Swami. We have, with the Prarthana of doing Anusandhana of the actual original Shankara Vijaya text, we have started this effort, this prayatna, and we have been seeing the Anandagiriya Shankara Vijaya, which is composed by one Anandagiri, who was a direct disciple of Sri Shankara Bhagavatpāda. And in the first chapter, he has given just the chapter summary, the table of contents. In the second chapter, he has described the situation, the circumstances that led to the Shankaravatara, and he has come up to the point where Bhagavatpada completed his Vedadhyana and he was doing Shushrusha to his mother. That is where the second Prakarana ends. Chakara Matra Shushrusha Adhimanusha Karmagat. And in this third chapter, third Prakarana, he later on, in the latter part, he dwells into the Advaita Tattva. And we can see that this is a very, very scholarly treatise, but our effort is to present the story, the Bhakti Bhava towards Bhagavatpada in this, while doing Saramsha Sangraha of the Shastra parts of it. So, the beginning of this chapter, he describes how Bhagavatpada, even as a Brahmachari, even in the Shivarahasya, which is another great Itihasa text, which is a Pramana Grantha for our of the Bhagavatpada Charitra and especially of our Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham also. And that Shivarahasya text also indicates that Bhagavatpada probably, as we can see from the order of the verses, he did Tattvopadesha even before coming to Sannyasa Ashrama, because he was spending some time in doing service to the great lady who begot him. And at that time, even at that time, because later on it very clearly speaks about the Brahmachari Swarupa Lakshanas that Bhagavatpada followed. So it is clear as per this text that he was doing Upadesha to others even at that time. Itham Vichitra Rupa Tejo Guna Gambhiryadi Yuktaha Shaishavepi Prakrita Magadhi Girvanadi Sarva Bhasha Kushalaha. At the time he was possessed of very much admirable qualities. The Tejas, the Vinaya and the humility and the Gambhirya, the seriousness, the absence of childlikeness is something that is good, but childishness one does not expect after a particular stage. So that is Gambhirya, the Vishaya Gambhirya. So Bhagavatpada, even though Shaishavepi, even though he was very small in age, one can even call him a Shishu from another viewpoint. So despite that, he was he had all these qualities and he was He was possessed of qualities that would cause people to respect him. And he was knowledgeable in so many languages, Prakrita, Magathi, Samskrita, and so many languages. Saraswati Vilasa Iva Apurva Shankaraha Samavartata. There is this phrase in our Kamakoti Pitha, Birudavali. Each Birudavali bears the special qualities of the person who is very special to that Pitham. And in our Kamakoti Pitham, which was established by Bhagavatpāda himself, the entire Birudavali refers to the epithets, it contains epithets and referring to the qualities of Srimad Shankara Bhagavatpāda, and in which Kamalasana Kamini Dhammilla Sampulla Mallika Malika Nishyanta Makaranda Jhari Sauvastika Vijrambhadananda Tundirata Manisha Mandalana. It's a very special epithet which is an explanation for this word. I mean, I'm not saying that it is composed as an explanation, but it is the content of this single small word Saraswati Vilasa is explained in much detail beautifully in that epithet. Kamalasana Kamini is the Dharmapatni of Brahma who resides on a lotus, who is Saraswati, and she is wearing in her hair a very tight ball of Mallika Pushpa Mala, and the Sugandha, the fragrance which is coming out of those Mallika Pushpas, it seems that the Mallika Malika Nishyanta Makaranda Jari, whatever the Makaranda which is present in all those flowers, and it comes out as the fragrance and it spreads everywhere. Like that, the Pravaha of that Makaranda, for it, if it were a king, if a king goes and in front of the king there will be a person who is reciting all the greatness of the king. You know that Raja, Dhiraja, Raja Gambhira, and so on, so on. That person is called a Sauvastika. So here, the intent of the word Sauvastika is to indicate somebody who goes in front, who is announcing or who is introducing something, somebody who is coming in the back. So we can say that the Bhagavatpāda's Vak, because Sauvastika Vang Nigumbha Vijrambhadananda is a Vang Nigumbha. The words of Bhagavatpāda are such that we can say that they are such that they present the fragrance of the Veda Saraswati, the Nitya Saraswati. Or we can also say that the fragrance of the Bhagavatpāda's words spreads everywhere, like as if it were the fragrance of Ma Saraswati's Mallikas which she is wearing in her hair. So either way, the word Sauvastika, here only the coexistence is what is important. Who is in front and who is in back is not what is important. So that is what is here by the Vang Nigumbha, by the beauteous words of Acharya. Vijrambhada Ananda Tundirita Manishi Mandalana. The scholars, the Manishi Mandalas, because when Bhagavatpāda does ordinary Hitopadesha or he talks about Bhagavad Guna, then ordinary people might be able to understand to an extent. But the full extent of his teachings, how he is quoting from the Shruti Smriti Puranas, that only scholars will be able to fully admire and appreciate. So the Harsha, the scholars who are listening to Bhagavatpāda are so overjoyed that their very body has become expanded. It is described that way. Vijrambhada Ananda Tundirita Manishi Mandalana. So such are the words of Bhagavatpāda, is what is briefly said as Saraswati Vilasa. Bhagavatpāda is of the form of the Saraswati's Vilasa itself, and he was an Apurva Shankara. There is a well-known verse which says, Vina Vinayakam Apurva Shankara. And in this avatara, Parameshwara did not bring his Dharmapatni with him in an external form because he was a sannyasi. And so many other contrasting qualities between Parameshwara and Bhagavatpāda are described, but still he is the same Parameshwara as avatar. So he is an Apurva Shankara. And that is how Bhagavatpāda was. Sarva Vidya Prapanchaha Prapanchātītaivo. He was of the form of all the Vidyas, the whole world, whole gamut of Vidyas embodied. Sarva Vidya Prapanchaha. But he was Prapanchādīta. He was beyond, he was the earlier chapter also, when the Devatas are praising Parameshwara, they call it Prapanchatīta. The same Prapanchatīta Parameshwara has come in the form of Bhagavatpāda. He is beyond the world. But something that he is Samyajnanavashat Jivan Mukta Iva. He uses the word Iva. He only appears to be Jivan Mukta. What does it mean, appears to be Jivan Mukta? Are you saying he is not a Jnani? Boy, I didn't say that. He is definitely a Jnani. But he was never a Jiva because he is Ishvara. And so he was never Baddha, so he cannot become Mukta. But nevertheless, for Vyavaharika Sthiti, or some people who are not able to appreciate that he was a Shivavatara would consider that, okay, this is some great soul, he is a redite soul, a Jivan Mukta, he is talking to us. The jnana that he is exhibiting is so we can definitely determine that he is a Jivan Mukta. That is what some people would have thought. Ivakila Analasyada Bhagavan Acharya. He was working tirelessly for the benefit of his Shishyas, as he himself said, Go Guru Adhigatatattvaha Shishyahitaya Udyatas Satatam. Not only if he has some jnana is sufficient, but he also has to work for the sake of his Shishyas. So Abhavat Bhagavan Acharya, Bhagavan Bhagavatpāda was like that. And he was like a Kalpavriksha. In the Ashtoktar Shataramabali of Bhagavatpāda, we see that he is called the Shishyakartapa Haraka. Not all Shishyas are immediately rising up to the level of doing prarthana only for moksha. They would be requesting for mundane removal of difficulties or attaining some other objects of life also. But nevertheless, he was a Kalpavriksha. Later on, it is described in further verses also. But his actual goal is to bring people out of samsara. That is the goal of a guru. So what kind of Kalpavriksha was he? So Anandagiriya Acharya, he describes his guru, how he was a Shrutismriti Purana Alaya. That he describes here. Shad Darshana Moolaha. If there is a tree, there has to be a root. What are the roots of this Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda? Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda Mahate is another verse about Bhagavatpāda. Those Shad Darshanas, the Nyaya Vaisheshika, Samkhya Yoga, and the Purvottara Mimamsas. All these Siddhantas are mentioned in the Brahma Sutra, and only some portions which of those traditions which are not in accordance with the Veda have been repudiated by the Brahma Sutras and the Bhagavatpāda Bhashya. The entire Siddhanta has not been disregarded or thrown away. So whatever is the Veda Anukula part of it, Veda Aviruddha part of it has definitely been respected and taken into consideration. So those Shad Darshanas are the root of the Shankara Vriksha. Itihasa Sthano, as the Shrutismriti Itihasa and Purana, always we know that they go together. In that shloka, Shrutismriti Purana is present as per the meter. Here it is presented as Itihasa, because the Itihasa is what gives the Dharma in a more understandable story format, the Purana Itihasas. So that from those Granthas Bhagavatpāda quotes in his text, so that those Itihasa Puranas are the trunk of the Shankara tree, he describes. Nigama Shakha. We know that Veda is divided into so many shakhas. So he likens the Vedas to the shakhas of the Vriksha. Shadanga Pallava. What are all the leaves which are slowly coming out, sprouting on the branches? They are the Shadangas. The Shadangas are the Shiksha Shastra, which describes the pronunciation of the Veda, various Veda Shakas. There are so many numerous minor differences between the Veda Shakas. The Vyakarana Shastra, which describes the Padalakshana of the words in the Veda. The Chandas Shastra, which describes the meters of the verses in the Veda. The Nirukta Shastra, which shows how to understand the meaning of the words in the Veda. The Jyotish Shastra, which describes the determination of the time in which the Vedokta Karmanushtanas have to be performed. And the Kalpa Shastra, which gives the summarized procedural manual, which acts as a manual for doing the Karmanushtanas of the Veda. These are the Shadangas. And for each Veda, it has to be described separately. So each branch has its own sprouts in it. So likewise, the Shadangas are present in all the Shakhas. Shadanga Pallava, they are like the sprouts. Sutra Pushpa, the flowers which are present here and there, which are decorating are presented in the form of the succinct sutras of the acharyas of yore. And mantra shalato. The mantras are not only for doing karmanushthanam. Mantras are also necessary for attaining the paripakvata, which is necessary for the Vedanta Vidya also. So even the Vedanta Prakaranas give mantras for attaining Chitta Shuddhi, for attaining Brahmajnana. And the mantra is something which we definitely have to catch hold of if you want to attain Parameshwara, because even the Yoga Sutra says Tasya Vachaka Pranava. So the Pranava and all the mantras which are coming from the Pranava are representative of the Paradevata Swarupa, which we have to merge with. So the mantra is the tender initial stage of the fruit, and once the mantra attains paripakvata, when the tender fruit becomes a complete fruit, the small starting stage of the fruit, as the mantra attains siddhi, he becomes jnana phalaha. The mantra itself becomes the jnana fruit. And the word phala, it has, as per Katapayadi Sankhya, it refers to the number 32. And we know that Bhagavatpāda stayed in this world for 32 years. And based on this, the Punya Shloka Manjari, which gives the Charitra of the Kamakoti Pita Acharya Parampara, it says, Phale Swasmin Swayushi. Bhagavatpāda attained Siddhi when his Ayus, when his lifetime attained Phala. Means attained 32, it means it attained its goal of re-establishing the Sanatana Dharma. So that Jnana Phala is the, and that is the core of the Shankara Vriksha. He came to give us Jnana, which is the final goal. So that was the Swarupa of the Shankara Kalpa Vriksha, is what he describes. Further, not only was he a Jnana Vriksha, but even for the worldly prarthanas, he was a Kalpa Vriksha, is what he describes next. Because not everybody will be immediately asking for Jnana. Artho Saturvidha Bhajante Mam. Even those who are doing prarthana of Laukika Phalas, it is necessary. We can't expect everybody to attain Vairagya immediately, that is one. But even Bhagavan Shri Rama was born as the result of a Kamya Karma Anushtana. If we say this, it might seem that we are speaking lowly of it, but that is not true. That Putra Kamya Ishti, the word Kamya is there in the name of the Ishti itself. It was performed by Dasharatha. And it gave him the Putra Prapti of Sakshat Bhagavan. So, when and attaining progeny, as we mentioned earlier, Yeshan Lokanam Santati is something that Grihasthas have to make efforts for, as per Shastra. So, for that, all these Shastriya Upayas are there for getting Devanugraha for all these fruits. So, Kamya Karma is not something that is wrong. Not everybody will go, even only for those who are going to the Nivritti Marga. For them, it is said that you should leave out Kamya Karmas and do only Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma. But those who are like us, who are in the worldly life, for us, first what it is said, Tere Shasya Vijayam Apachati, whatever Karmanusthana you are doing, even though you are doing Kamya Karmanusthana, you will be saying in the Sarkalpa, Shri Parameshwara Prithatha. Then later on, you attain the Paripathatha, you think whether if I do Prarthana of I want more Aishwarya and all these things, whether it will give Shri Parameshwara Priti, then you develop yourself. But you keep saying that Shri Parameshwara Pritartha. Then later on it will go into Kamya Matistyatam. That is the order in which Bhagavatpāda himself was given Upadesha. So, at the early stages, definitely Bhagavatpāda also would give us the Laukika Phalas, Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarashabha, the Laukika Phalas, and slowly evolve us to attain to the Nishkamya Sthiti. So, Swargya Yatha Kalpataruha, as the Kalpavriksha was there, is there as per the Purana in the Swargaloka, Suranam Bhusuranam Vanchidartham, Swargya Yatha Kalpataruho Tatha Bhumau Hi Shankaraha, Suranam Bhusuranam Vanchidartham Prato Bhavatu. He was Abhavat, because he was this Anandagiriya Acharya who composed this work, he was present there. He was seeing. We know only some of the Anugrahas are recorded in these books. How many Anugrahas? Today the Acharyas who are coming in the Shankara Parampara, they are doing so much Anugraha to the Shishyas. All kinds of Anugraha they are doing. So, similarly, the Moola Purusha Bhagavatpāda definitely have done. All those charitras will not be present recorded. How many people he has given Anugraha, how many different ways. And that he has seen. So, he says in a single shloka. Suranam Bhusuranam Vanchidartha Pradaha. As the Kalpataru in the Swargaloka gives the Vanchidartha for the Suras, the Devas, Likewise, for those people who are in the Bhuloka, who are doing the Dharmanutana, for them, Bhagavatpāda was the Kalpataru in this Bhuloka, he says. And then he explains the greatness of his, expresses the greatness of his Acharya. Vede Brahma Samaha, my Guru. Later on, he, Vadiya Sadguru Rasau, how much vancha he has, how much uh, devotion, probably a stronger word than that is needed in English. He has for his Guru, Madiya Sadguru, is my Guru, he says. Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda, on this Bhuloka, how he was, do you know? Vede Brahma Samaha. Veda, for Brahma is the person who is doing the parayana of all the Vedas always. Chaturamraya Vadavadam Sadapi is what Sadashiva Brahmendra says. And that when he is doing the parayana, even today we see Vedic scholars who are always doing Veda parayanas and they have such upasthiti. Upasthiti means immediately they can pinpoint where in the Veda a particular passage occurs. So what to say of Brahma, who is doing all the parayana of all the Vedas? He has 4 separate heads for 4 Vedas. Not anybody else can do that Chaturveda Parayana at the same time. Maybe they can do after finishing one after the other. But Brahma is the one person who can do Chaturveda Parayana always because he has 4 heads. So, how much upasthiti will he have, Brahma have in the Vedas? Like that, my Guru Shri Shankara had upasthiti in the Veda. Nandagiri Gargopamaha. Gargacharya, he was the Acharya for Sakshat Sri Krishna, who did Namakarana the Samskaras. So we understand from this that Gargacharya was very well known as a Shadangavit. Tatanga Nijaye Gargopamaha Tat Katha Tatparyartha Vivechane Guru Samaha. He was like Guru. Guru means Brihaspati. We know Guru Vasara, Brihaspati Vara. He was like Brihaspati in Tat Katha Tatparyartha Vivechane, discussing the stories. There are stories in the Veda. Katha doesn't mean only Laukika stories. There are stories in the Veda for illustrating a point. Bhagavad himself says in the Bhashya. Kathas are very excellent teaching tools. So, what is the Tatparyartha of the Katha? Tatparyartha Vivechane, he was Brihaspati. He was as skilled as Brihaspati was. Brihaspati would teach the Devas, we can infer maybe, how he would interpret, how he would present the import of the Kathas. Like that, my Guru was. Tat karma samsargane asi jaivinireva tatvachanadaha. Tat karma samsargane. He was later on, he says, prabodhakam kande samo vyasena. The word tatvachanadaha can be attached to both the previous and the following sections. Maya Acharya, because there are 2 parts of the Veda, the Karmakanda and the Jnanakanda. Jaimini did the sutras for the Karmakanda and Vyasacharya did the sutras for the Jnanakanda. Tat Vachanadaha. For which part? Tat Karma Samsargane Jaimini. About the Karmakanda, by doing Samanvaya of all the various different kinds of Karma Vidhi Vakyas and doing the Nirupana, doing the Nishkarasha, the finalizing the Swarupa of the Karmanushtana, my Acharya was equal to Jaimini. And if at all Shankara Swami had not written the Bhashya already, he might have composed a Bhashya on the Jaimini Sutras also. But my Acharya accepted the Shankara Swami's Bhashya, so he did not compose another separate Jaimini Uttarmimamsa, Purvamimamsa Bhashya. So he says he was Jaimini himself. That pride in his Guru he shows. Prodbodha Gande Samo Vyaseneva. In the part of the Vedas which gives the Udbodha, Prakarashena Udbodha, the Jnanakanda, the Kanda, the group of the passages of Veda which gives Jnana, that is the Jnanakanda, that Vachanadaha, the Sutras, the person who composed the Vachanas, the Sutras for the Karmanushtanas, as well as for the Jnanakanda. Whether Jaimini or Vyasa, my Guru was equal to them. Vadiya Sadguru Rasau Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda. And further, how was he? Advaitarnava Purna Chandram. He was like the Purna Chandra, the full moon of the Advaita Samudra. If Advaita Siddhanta can be likened to a Samudra, to an ocean, we know that it is popularly known that said that the ocean swells upon the rise of the new moon. Whether they accept it scientifically or not is a different thing. But it is a kavya. The bhava is what we have to understand here. The swell of the ocean here, the Advaita Arnava. If the Advaita Siddhanta is an ocean, it swells. It was the Siddhanta itself was so happy, so much harsha it had when Bhagavad-Pada came to do Vyakhana of it. So it was like the full moon which caused the Advaita ocean to swell. Abhida Padmatavi Bhaskaram. He was like the sun. What sun? Abhida Padmatavi Bhaskaram. If Abheda, the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara, because there is a shloka which says that Jiva Isho Vishuddhajitu Tatha Jiveshayor Bhida Avidya Sachitor Yogaha Shadaspaka Manadeyaha. Is there are 6 things. I'm not going into detail into the verse, but this is a Vedanta Sampradaya shloka which gives the 6 concepts which are taken to be anadi in the Vyavaharaka. So among those is the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara is also anadi in Vyavaharakala, but in the Paramarthika sthiti, the difference between Jiva and Ishvara absolutely does not exist. It never existed. Because only Sarvam Brahma is the truth, as Brahmendra says. So that Abhida, the difference, the absence of the difference between Jiva and Ishvara is what is Advaita. Earlier the same has been said briefly as Advaita, but the word Advaita is better known as, refers immediately understood to refer to a particular Siddhanta. And here he is using a different word to very explicitly indicate what he means, because like you say, Ekameva Advitiya. The same thing expressed in 2 different ways very clearly tightens the concept. So, Abhida Padmatavi, if the absence of the difference between Jiva and Ishvara, which is what the Mahavakya has come to say, which culminates in that Sarvam Brahma is the only truth, that if it is a Padmatavi, if it is a forest of lotuses, not just a single lotus, not just a single pond of lotuses, but a whole forest of lotuses, if it were, if the Abheda Siddha, Abheda Tattva, Abheda, the difference of, the absence of difference of the Parameshwara and Jiva were a forest of lotuses, the Bhagavat-Pada was the sun. When the sun rises, the whole forest of lotuses blooms immediately. It is not as if each lotus has to bloom after the other lotus. So similarly, the Abheda, when Bhagavat-Pada gives the Tattvopadesha, the difference, absence of difference between Jiva and Ishvara immediately gets manifested into is what he wants to say. And because of this, he was Vidvat Koti Samarthitangri Yugalam. How many crores of scholars came to have darshan of Maya Acharya and who respected, who did puja to his feet. And the next word, very beautiful word, Pradvesha Kakshanala. In some texts it is read as Pradveshi Kakshanala, but the wording Pradvesha Kakshanala is much more beautiful, because here the Kaksha refers to the shrub and dry shrub especially. And when fire comes near a dry shrub, immediately it will cause it to go into ashes. That we know very fast. So, what is the shrub, dry shrub that the fire that is Bhagavat-Pada causes to turn into ashes immediately? Is, if you take it as Pradveshi, means the person who bears ill will. It would mean that Bhagavat-Pada caused them to go to be destroyed. But that is not what Bhagavat-Pada did. So even though the Nama Dvisaptati Matotchetre Namaha, the word Utchetre indicates it's somewhat harsh. It indicates that he absolutely destroyed all the matas. But we can also understand he destroyed, even even in those matas, he destroyed only one part of it. The part of it which was Veda Viruddha. He destroyed, whatever, as we can see in the following prakaranas, those who ever advocated those various matas, even today maybe some of those matas are still extant. Those people, they came to Bhagavat-Pada with very strong conviction in their Siddhanta, talked to Bhagavat-Pada, and they accepted Bhagavat-Pada's Siddhanta, and they became, many of them even became Shishyas of Bhagavat-Pada, it is said. So it was a Priti Purvaka Jaya. It was not as if the person who was vanquished went away crying in defeat. Bhagavatpada was the Karunamurti who gave them the happiness of understanding the Tattva. And later on, many of those people, he himself, Bhagavatpada himself, sent them to do prachara of those matas because people need these matas. They need various kinds of upasana paddhatis. Not everybody is able to go to Advaita Vedanta immediately. Every person, as per their ruchi, they have to follow different upasana paddhatis. But the important part of it is that earlier also when Narada speaks to Brahma, he said that these people are conflicting with one another. Because of the conflicts, see, when you have so many scholars, each scholar will have different opinion. It is not possible to totally be devoid of difference of opinion. But the difference of opinion should not culminate in dvesha. That is what is important. Abhay Dikshita also says, अधिगतभिधा पूर्वाचार्यान् उपेत्य सहस्रधा सरिदिव महीभागान् सम्प्राप्य शौरिपदोद्गता जयति भगवत्पाद श्रीमन्मुखाम्बुज निर्गता जननहरणी सूक्तिः ब्रह्म अद्वय एकपरायण. Even though the Bhagavatpada Sukti, the Upadesha, is Brahma Advaya Ekaparayana, finally it goes and reaches that Brahma Advaya only. But when it is coming through so many other acharyas who are coming in the parampara, all different acharyas, but coming in the parampara of the same Bhagavatpada only, but nevertheless, they are interpreting in slightly different ways. Even the same Bhagavatpada's Upadesha. But nevertheless, all those paraspara bhinna abhiprayas, the differing interpretations or opinions have to come back to the single ocean, that Brahmaikya, the Advaita. So, the difference of opinion exists even among the Veda Vakyas. Some Veda passages said, they quote from another Veda and says, no, don't do that. Tanna tatha kuryat, tattadhana karyam. Veda itself conflicts or says you should not do that way. What another Veda passage says, if you take one shakha, it quotes another Veda shakha and says don't do that. But when it is a kriya, you can do the same thing in many different ways. But when it is tattva, and especially vastu tattva, the vastu swabhava, vastu tantra, purusha tantra are technical words which are used to explain this in the shastras. When it is vastu tantra, you cannot have difference of opinion whether fire is hot or not. It is always hot. For some person, it will be like this, and that for some person, it will be like that. No. So, when it is Vastu Tantra, it has to be of the single nature only. So, when all these differing opinions come to the single Siddhanta, all the differing opinions are reconciled and they lose their differences like the nadis lose their different names and come and merge in the ocean. So, when that happens, the pradvesha will disappear. The conflict among one another, the hatred should disappear. If the hatred disappears, then all those people, the pradveshis, will become good people, no? So why should we have to destroy those people? Because just because they are pradveshis, you remove their dvesha, then they will become good people. How beautiful a concept is this pradvesha kaksha. Huh? And that dvesha is the Sharma which the Bhagavatpāda Agni made turned into ashes. And Hridya Abhedya Samasta Veda Janita Prodyat Vivekankuram. My Acharya, by his Upadesha, it gives the Viveka Ankura. The sprout of Viveka comes from the Upadesha of my Acharya. What kind of sprout? Hridyam. When you come to that Viveka, the Paramartha Drishti, then it will give you peace. Chinta nastikira, tesham chinta nastikira, samadama karuna, sampurnanam, sadhu samagama, sankirnanam is what Sahasrabhamendra says. Samadama, then you attain the sthiti of chinta nasti. No worries. We can keep saying that word, but always worries come. When will you be truly devoid of worries? When you come to that sthiti. When that Sarvam Brahmavayam sthiti comes, then you will reach that. Then it will be Hridyam. It will be Samadha for you, for your mind. And it will be Abhedyam. Yasmin sthitona dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate is what Bhagavan says in the Gita. When you attain that sthiti, whatever greatest difficulty or dukkha you may attain, it will not shake you. Unshakable sthiti, Abhedya. And from where has it come? Samasta Veda Janita. Bhagavatpada never he says that this is my Siddhanta. He says this is the Siddhanta of the Vedas. samasta Veda Janita, and that Vivekankura was given by Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda, Svidyat Vag Amritam. The words which flow from the Bhagavatpāda's mouth, it is of the form of Amrita, nectar. Paratpara Guru. Like as I mentioned earlier, throughout this text, he keeps referring to Bhagavatpāda as Paramaguru, Paramaguru, Paramaguru. And I also said that he might have had many Vidya Gurus and Diksha Guru and other people, but he took Bhagavatpāda as his Paramaguru, the greatest of his Gurus. But on top of that, he is saying Paratpara Guru, to be totally devoid of doubts. Don't think that there is a real Guru who is greater than my Bhagavatpāda. He is the Paratpara, greatest of the great. Like the Veda itself says, Shreshtha Tamaya Karmani. Those who know Sanskrit grammar know that Shreshtha is Shraishtha. This means the greatest. In English also, you won't say greatest test. You don't attach another superlative suffix for that. But that is the greatest test is what is the meaning of Shreshtha Tama. Shraishtha Tama. The Vedas suddenly got doubt whether some people may think that Shreshtha is just great, not greatest. Because due to repeated over usage, that Ishtha will lose its power. Really, actually, most people are not aware that Shreshtha means Shra Ishtha. Only those who know Vyakarana will know that. So, Shreshtha Tama, Veda uses that for Yajnanusthana. It is the greatest test thing that you can do. Yajnanusthana. So, like that, he says, Parat Paraguru, the greatest of the great Gurus, Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda. How much pride, how much devotion he has for his Acharya. Ardhentu Lalata, in the following paragraph, a big paragraph, he describes the form of his Guru. We see Sri Sashu Brahmendra's Dakshinamurti Dhyana. He has described the Dakshinamurti as such a beauteous form. Lalita Tripura Sundari, the Lalita, that stotra has so many similarities to Lalita Sahasranama actually. It is a Stri form and it is a Purusha form, that is the difference, but both are of the form of Murti Krita Saundari. And there is no difference for us. So that same beauty, the Shiva beauty is seen in Bhagavatpāda is what he says. And some aspects of Devi also he mentions. Ardhendu Lalata. The Lalata, this is even the Saudaralari, it is mentioned that Amba's forehead is of the form of a half moon. So such a forehead Bhagavatpāda has. Purnenda Mukha. His entire face is as a full moon. Vishala Bhakshaha, his chest is broad. Ajanu Bahu. Even in the form of Dakshinamurti, we see the both hands are coming up to the knee and the left hand, the right hand is in Chinmudra and the left hand is relaxed. Leaving all karmanushthanas, the jnana sthiti, it indicates Ajanu Bahu. That Bhagavatpāda is of the same, he is the avatar of the same Dakshinamurti. Guru Nitamba, the waist portion is as per its Lakshana, is broad. Vinoruhu, the thighs are strong. Budha Gulpa, the ankle part is almost as if hidden, not too much protruding. Swalpa Pada, as if it is Ambika's father, beautiful small legs. Probably he was even thinking of Bhagavatpāda's Balyavastha, so Shona Nakha, the redness of his nails. So that these amshas are from Amba. Kharabhada Madhyasthaleshu Shankha Chakradi Jinhita. Describes that he has the chinnas of both Vishnu and Shiva in his hands, in the feet, in his legs, the middle of his Karatala and the Padatala, he bears the Shankha Chakra symbols of Vishnu. And Shirasi Vama Bhage Trishula Chinha, he bears the Trishula Chinha in his left upper temple. And Dakshina Bhage to Ardha Chandra Chinha, he bears the symbol of the sign, the birthmark, we can say, of Ardha Chandra in his right upper temple. Evam Ankadvayena, both kinds of symbols he bears. Sakshat Chidambare Shaiva Virajamana. This is a very surprising reference, allusion to Nataraja. Probably he thinks that in Dakshinamurti he has left his what seems to be an inactive state and comes to do Upadesha for people. His very movements are like the Natya of Bhagavan Nataraja, he might have thought. It says Sakshat Chidambare Shaiva Virajamana Sama Pramana Shira. The heads, maintaining the head in a balanced position, it itself is a part of yogasana. So samapramana samankaya shirogrivam dharayan nacharam sthira is what Bhagavan says in the Gita. So the head has to have the samapramana, and even when they do the drawing or the shilpas, they will have these rules for doing that. And because the next phrase it indicates Bhagavatpāda was in Brahmacharya Ashrama, Maunji Danda Ajina Bhuti Dharanadibhi. He was bearing the symbols of the Brahmacharya Ashrama because he was bearing the Maunji Mekhala in his waist, and he had the Danda, and he had the Krishnajina, and he was wearing the Bhasma. So these are the symbols of Brahmacharya Ashrama. Shastra vidhir evam anushtheya iti sarvamartyan bodhayan. This is how you should follow the Shastras. Because I have come out of Padashala and I am serving my mother, I should not leave my Brahmacharya Lakshana, is what Acharya says, shows. And the next passage indicates at this point of time itself, he was definitely doing Upadesha to many people. Many people might have approached him for Upadesha due to his erudition. But look at the beautiful reference here. Upadhyaya Anukyavasad. We don't know who was that great soul who had the bhagya of teaching Bhagavatpada all the Veda Shastra Vidyas. But Bhagavatpada took his permission. Just because he came out, then I will show my Panditya. No. He took the permission of his Guru, of his Vidya Guru, and then he started teaching others. Upadhyaya Anukyavasad Brahmasane. Before sitting on that asana, the sthana of an Upanyasaka or an Adhyapaka is something that is honorable. It has its own respect. So he took the permission of his Acharya, Vidya Guru, and he came and sat in that Brahmasana. Chatushashti Kala Patatmake. What kind of an asana? The greatness of that asana, Anandagiriya Acharya describes. Chatushashti Kala Patatmake. It is as if the 64 Kalas, the beauteous arts, they came and they became the cloth of that asana. Chaturdasha Vidya Mani Virajite. There were manis, ratnas, which were decorating that cloth. What were those manis? The Chaturdasha Vidyasthanas, starting from the Veda. Sahasra Veda Prabha Dipite. How lustrous is that asana? Sahasra Veda Prabha. The Veda itself says Tasmin Sahasra Shakhe. It is known as there are thousands of shakhas in the Veda. So, whatever the Prabha, the Prakasha of the Vedas, that Prakasha is seen in that asana. Sahasra Veda Prabha Dipite. Sutra Itihasa Tantu Virajite. The Sutras, the Itihasas, you can add the Puranas also. Those are the Tantus, the thread, which are keeping the cloth together. The Sutras, without the Sutras, people will start interpreting the Vedas in any way that they want. But the Sutras are tying together. Sutra has two meanings. Both these aphorisms, Vyasa Sutra, Jaimini Sutra, etc. And also the thread which connects, which ties the cloth together. So, and the Hindu Sutras and the Itihasas, which are also very important in interpreting the Vedas, those were the threads of which tie together the asana. And Tapaniya Agama Mantra Yantra Tantra Vikhatrimshad Angulochrite. It said that it is 36 angulas. You can say maybe it's 3 feet in height. That is the asana, the height from which an Upanyasaka or an Upadesha would do Upadesha. And it is said that the Tapaniya, what gives him a height? Height is not just physical height. It is about the Yogyata. All these are from where is Bhagavatpāda speaking? He is speaking from the Vedas. He is speaking from the Chaturdasha Vidyasthanas. He is speaking from the Chatushashti Kalas. He is, and how many different other kinds of Vidyas are there? There are Tapaniyas. There are some Upanishads are called Tapaniya Upanishad. This is a special kind of Vidya. And Agamas, we know. And Mantra, Yantra, Tantras. These are what give that the authority to speak. And with all these qualifications, he was like the Bala Bhanurivo. He was like the young sun rising in the eastern mountain. And Brahmanda Golake Dhruva Yuga. The entire world, they say that there is something that is called the Dhruva, the pole, around which everything rotates. So they said that there is a star today there Like that, Bhagavatpāda was sthira in a sense, just like the Dhruva, the pole star, does not rotate. So Bhagavatpāda does not move. So even though the whole world keeps changing, Bhagavatpāda is firm in his Siddhanta. So Brahmanda Golake Dhruva Ivo, Janakakrita Dwadashavarshike Satre Yakyavalkya Ivo. The Brahma describes how in the great Yajna, Janakoha Bahudev Videho Bahudakshanena Yajnana Ije. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad describes that. So Yajnavalkya keeps coming and going. He was probably not, it doesn't seem as if he was a Ritwik there. He was coming and going. Whenever he came, he used to get some cows as Dakshina from Janaka, and he used to go and he used to come back. Then once he was very due to familiarity, with Swadhinata, he asked Janaka, "Oh Yajnavalkya, have you come for cows or for answering my questions?" Yajnavalkya coolly says, "Both." Bhajameva Samraditi Hovacha. So you give me Sambhavana, I will go and distribute it to others. I have the Yogita, you will give me. Kings may give to others also, but the Sambhavana they give to great scholars will be special. Because why even though Yajnavalkya was a very well-to-do person, is described there. But nevertheless, he was receiving lots of Sambhavana, he would have spent it on other dharma karyas. So he used to come and he used to answer all the questions of Janaka, and that is how my Acharya was like Yajnavalkya and Parikshit Narendrasya Jnana Bhavata Samaye Shuka Iva. How did Shuka come at the end of the life of Parikshit when he was about to attain Mrityu, and he gave him the Bhagavad Tattva Upadesha? Like that Shuka, my guru, came Meru Mastake Tapascharyangigaro Jire Vyasa Iva. He was like Vyasacharya who was doing tapas on the top of the Meru Parvata, and Ramakatha Prakatritva Kale Valmiki Rivo. Says my Acharya was like Vyasa, he was like Valmiki. When he was singing like Valmiki, he was singing the gunas of Rama. Just like that, Bhagavad has also sung the Rama Bhujanga. My Acharya was like Valmiki. Bhashyopadesha Kale Patanjali Rivo. Mahabhashyam Va Bhataniyam Maharajyam Va Shastrini, it is said how much Ananda is attained by the study of the Mahabhashya. Only those who have studied know. Like that Bhashyam Prasanna Gambhiram, the Prasannata, the beauteous, the flow of expression that is seen in Patanjali's Mahabhashya is seen in my Acharya's Bhashya also, in Shankara Bhagavatpāda's Bhashya also. Devanam Shiksha Samaye Suracharya Ivo. He teaches one thinks this is how Brihaspati would have taught the Devas. Narodesakare Brahma Ivo. How Brahma, the Adi Upadeshaka, he got direct Upadesha of Veda from Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, but he taught Narada. Narada refers to that in the earlier chapter. So Narada, how like that Brahma did Upadesha to Narada, my guru, Shri Shankara. Dharmarajasya Tattvopadeshakare Shri Krishna. My guru was like Shri Krishna, who did Tattvopadesha to Dharmaraja. He told Dharmaraja, you go and get Upadesha from Bhishmacharya. But there was somebody who has to show that Dharma, Bhishmacharya is the qualified person to do that. And nevertheless, Sri Krishna was there all through the life of Dharmaraja and taught him what is correct, showed him what is advice. And Dharmaraja asked for the advice of Sri Krishna. Like that, my Acharya, like Krishnam Mante Jagadguru, my Acharya was the Jagadguru. Kalidasa, you people say that Kalidasa has so much Kavita Samarthya, describes Upama, Kalidasa, etc., etc. You come and read the compositions of my Acharya. How beautiful Kavita my Acharya composes. Samasinaha, Shri Shankara Guru, and all this beauty and qualifications. My Acharya, he was present, he was on that asana. Aneka Shishyanam, Nigamada Sarvashastra Prapanchasya Sadupadeshamachana. He gave so many Shishyas, he taught the Nigamas, the Vedas, and so many other Shastras, Sad Upadesham. He gave a proper Upadesha of all the Shastras to all these Shishyas. So, let me stop this session here. Later on, lots of Tattva Vicharas are coming in the next part. We will see in a later session. Jai Jai Shankara, Har Har Shankara.